Shabbat Shalom, everybody. We have so many things that we are going to do while we're relaxing for our Shabbat service. But today is Simcha Shabbat, so if you have birthdays or anniversaries this month, and I know who you are, we have people here, then we will be celebrating you. We are dedicating the new and improved Shirley and Lionel Rabbinic suite office space. We're dedicating the newly renovated space. And part of that, that's pretty cool, is that I moved into that office 15 years ago like today. And there were nails on the wall. And so I put pictures up on the wall. And then they said, well, you could choose what color you want the walls to be. And I said, oh, really? I like this color. And when they painted the walls, they took away all the nails and they patched up the holes that used to be nail holes. And my pictures, as some of you have taunted me about for the last 15 years or almost 14 plus years, never made it back onto the walls. They were on like the counter space, and I just had them propped up. And I have some really beautiful pictures, and they were all propped, and nothing was on the wall. And some people sitting right here, were not happy with me about not putting them on the walls, and they kept saying, we've got to get them on the walls. And I say, oh, yeah. But they didn't. Well, they're on the walls. And not all of the pictures are on the walls. There was a minute when we started off, and we tried to put all of them, like we placed them all around the room, and then we said, yeah, this is ridiculous. So I think you'll see it kind of tells a beautiful story, and I think that they're in practical locations, and you will see when you come through, whenever it is. It doesn't have to be tonight. But that's a thing. But it's also Rosh Chodesh this month, so there is going to be a quiz. The month of, do you know what Hebrew month represents the summer the best? Which Hebrew month represents the summer the best? That's the month that's starting this month, this week. It's called Tammuz. Tammuz always reminds me of the word tapuz, which is the way they say orange, the fruit, because a tapuz is a tapuach, which is apple, zahav, which is gold. I think that in French they do that also, that almost every fruit is called a potato something, right? Or every fruit is called an apple something, right? Something like that. So, but in Hebrew, a lot of words are called a different kind of apple. So this one is tapuach zahav. They squish together and they make it tapuz, that's orange, which has nothing to do with the month, except it's what reminds me of the month. Tammuz is the name of the month, and it's refreshing, summertime. So that's the month that's starting, and it's starting Thursday and Friday, so that's going to be something I'm not supposed to forget as part of our service. So we have birthdays and anniversaries, we have dedicating the new space, and we have the new month. And most importantly, Shabbat. We get to celebrate Shabbat, which is a little bit like coming together for a wedding. It's a very exciting day. We're going to get married today, but more on that later. But before we do all that, it has been a hectic week. I don't know about for you. It wasn't as overwhelming as the previous week, but it was extremely hectic. I forgot until somebody mentioned something today that it was a short week. Memorial Day was this week, so some people had 4-day work weeks, and that's why. I promise you that someone said to me, I think today, someone said, what day of the week will Thursday be? And I was afraid to answer it because if I say Thursday, they will probably get upset with me because they obviously meant something else. But they said, what day of the week will Thursday be? And so I said, well, this Thursday will be, and I gave dates, and I tried to give as much information as I could. But almost everybody I spoke to is kind of not sure what day it is this week. But I know what day it is. It's Shabbat. So however we got here we are, and we get to take a break. We get to relax. We get to leave our lists outside the door, and we get to just breathe. So we begin Shabbat with breathing. We take a deep breath. out slowly. Try again. Let it out slowly. I love that. We are going to do service 3, and if you are online and joining us, you should have noticed that in 2 places on the B'nai Zion website, it tells you, you can click to something to have the words for the services. If you go to the Friday evening service, it will have a link to the services, and if you go to the watch online here, it will have a link to the services, but we're going to do service 3. And we begin on page 82, and I invite you, if it's comfortable for you, to please stand. I invite you to stand. And join me. These lights are only flickering flames, yet flames illumine our uncertain steps. Flames remind us of Sabbaths long past and of their beauty that delighted our hearts. May they inspire us to work for the great Sabbath of peace. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kedeshanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu lehadlik ner, Shel Shabbat. We praise you, eternal God, sovereign of the universe. You hallow us with your mitzvot and command us to kindle the Sabbath lights. You may be seated, but I'm going to stay here for a second and look at these flickering flames because I wanted to say that it reminds me a little bit about the office space. We cover our eyes because we're not supposed to light a fire on Shabbat. So we light the fire first. For almost everything else in all of Judaism, first you say the blessing and then you do the thing. But if I say the blessing and then lit the candles, I would be breaking Shabbat already. So I do this abracadabra thing, where I light candles and they're just lovely candles, and then I cover my eyes when I say the blessing and then open them. Now they're Shabbat candles. So I didn't have to break Shabbat by lighting them. That reminds me of that office space because the office space has kind of been ready for over a year when we thought we were going to be able to dedicate it last year. But we kind of covered our eyes and we left it like that. And then when we open our eyes and finally get to dedicate it, it was more magnificent. Now we have Shabbat candles and we truly have office space, beautiful office space. So it reminded me of that. We continue on page 83. There are days when we seek material things and measure failure by what we do not own.
On Shabbat, we wish not to acquire, but to share.
There are days when we exploit nature with reckless greed. Can you turn Adam's microphone down just a little bit, please?
Thank you.
Yep. Yeah. Thank you. Because he's got a projected
Very
voice.
loud. That's what
turn
she's
it down,
trying to say.
Down a little bit more. Keep going. Down a little more. Thank you.
Yes.
All right, there you go. There are days when we think only of ourselves. Today I was thinking of Adam. See? Sorry. There are days when we think only of ourselves.
On Shabbat, we open our hearts to the needs of others.
Therefore, we welcome Shabbat.
Day of joy, day of peace.
We welcome the angels that accompany us on Shabbat. Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharet, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech, Malachei Hamlachim HaKadosh, Baruch Hu. Moachem L'Shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech, Malachei Hamlachim HaKadosh, Baruch The synagogue is the sanctuary of Israel. Born of our longing for the living God, it has been to Israel throughout our wanderings a visible token of the presence of God in our people's midst. Its beauty is the beauty of holiness. Steadfast, it has stood as the champion of justice, mercy, and peace.
Its truths are true for all people. Its love is a love for all people.
Its God is the God of all people. As it has been said, my house shall be called a house of prayer for all peoples. Let all the family of Israel, all who hunger for righteousness, all who seek the eternal, find God here and here find life. יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה, בעלמא דברה חירותה וימליך מלכותה, בחייכון וביומכון ובחיי דכל בית ישראל. בעגלה, בעגלה, ובזמן קריב, ואמרו אמן. יהי שמי רבה מברך, לעלם ולעלמי עלמיה, יתברך, יתברך וישתבח, ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא, ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל, שמי דקודשה בריחו, לילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה. תושבחתה ונחמתה, דמירן בעלמא, ואמרו אמן. ברכו את אדוני המבורך.
ברוך אדוני המבורך לעולם ועד.
Oh God, how can we know you? Where can we find you? You are as close to us as breathing, yet you are farther than the farthermost star. You are as mysterious as the vast solitudes of night, yet as familiar to us as the light of the sun. To Moses you said, "You cannot see my face, but I will make all my goodness pass before you." Even so does your goodness pass before us in the realm of nature and in the joys and sorrows of life. When justice burns within us like a flaming fire, when love evokes willing sacrifice from us, when to the last full measure of selfless devotion we demonstrate our belief in the ultimate triumph of truth and righteousness, then your goodness enters our lives, and we can begin to change the world. And then you live within our hearts, and we, through righteousness, behold your presence. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam Va'ed. Anybody want to come up and help me with the Vahafta? Anybody? Anybody? Okay. I could do it myself. Could you help me from there? People help me? Okay, good. Then I'll do it by myself. ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם לאות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אדוני אלוהיכם אמת. You shall love Adonai your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your being. You know this by heart already, all the English. You know it, the older vocabulary, the newer vocabulary. As I was reading it, even in the Hebrew, I was thinking about all of the ways that this specific prayer touched me just this week. And I suspect it touched you too. For one thing, I put up a mezuzah on the door of my house and my gates so that you remember every time you come in and you go out that God is there watching over you, that you're living your life in a Jewish way. We've been teaching it to our children. And by the way, everybody who didn't want to help me up here, you're tagged now to have to lead services over the summer so that I can take a break. All right? That was the test. Anybody who said no gets to lead services now. Thank you, everybody, very much. Last week, for Ivy's bat mitzvah on Saturday morning, I chanted Torah. And I did it once before, but it is a very traumatic thing for me to do. I had a rabbi who told me that only smart kids could do this and that you can't do this. My dad almost punched him in the nose. I don't know that he thought about what he said when he said it. Some rabbis are like that. And I had not been able to chant. And I chanted last week. It was traumatic, and I did it. I am here to tell, I survived the story. So when I was chanting this, I was thinking about that, about all of the notes that go into it. And I was thinking about all of the ways that we fulfill commandments all the time. So I hope that when you're reading the prayers, you're thinking about what it is that you do to fulfill these things. We continue responsively on page 89. I, the Eternal One, have called you to righteousness and taken you by the hand and kept you. I have made you a covenant people, a light to the nations.
We are Israel, witness to the covenant between God and God's children.
This is the covenant I make with Israel. I will place my Torah in your midst and write it upon your hearts. I will be your God, and you shall be my people.
We are Israel. Our Torah forbids the worship of race or nation, possessions or power.
You who worship gods that cannot save you, hear the words of the Eternal One. I am God, there is none else.
We are Israel. Our prophets proclaimed an exalted vision for the world.
Hate evil and love what is good. Let justice well up as waters and righteousness as a mighty stream.
We are Israel, schooled in the suffering of the oppressed.
You shall not oppress your neighbors nor rob them. You shall not stand idle while your neighbor bleeds.
We are Israel, taught to beat swords into plowshares, commanded to pursue peace.
Violence, which, as you know here, the word that they use, not the same word, but it is the word, violence, which is Hamas here, shall no longer be heard in your land. Desolation and destruction within your borders. All your children will be taught of your God, and great shall be the peace of your children.
We are Israel, O God, when we are witnesses to your love and messengers of your truth.
You are my witnesses, says the Eternal One, and my servant whom I have chosen. Know me, therefore, and put your trust in me.
We are Israel, O God, when we proclaim you, God, our Redeemer, as did our ancestors on the shore of the Red Sea. Ya la 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 la, ya la la la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la la la, ya la 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 la. Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha nedav hakodesh, Torah tehilot osef ele, Torah tehilot osef ele. Ya la 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 la, ya la la la, ya la 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 la, ya la la la, ya la 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 la, ya la la la, ya la 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 la.
Baruch atah Adonai Gal Yisrael. We praise you, O God, Redeemer of Israel. We continue on page 92. May we lie down this night in peace and rise up to life renewed. O God, spread over us your shelter of peace, of quiet and calm, and bless us with rest. And let a time come when morning will bring no word of war or famine or anguish, a time of happiness, of contentment and rest. Baruch atah Adonai, praised are you Adonai, haporeh sukkah shalom, the one who spreads a sukkah of peace, aleinu, on us, v'al kol amo Yisrael, on all of the people Israel, v'al Yerushalayim, and on Jerusalem, and I add, v'al kol ha'olam, on the whole world. We give thanks for the night and its rest, and the promise of peace for all the world. V'shameru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, la'asot et ha-Shabbat lidorotam berito. Oti le'olam, oti le'olam. V'shameru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, la'asot et ha-Shabbat lidorotam berit olam. Ki sheshet yamim asa Adonai et ha-shamayim ve'et ha'aretz, v'shameru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, la'asot et ha-Shabbat lidorotam berit olam. Uvayom hashvi'i shavat vayinafash, shavat vayinafash, shavat vayinafash, v'shameru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, la'asot et ha-Shabbat lidorotam berit olam. Please rise for the tefillah, which begins on page 93. Putting you over here. Thank you, Max. Adonai sifatai tiftach ufi yagid tehilatecha. Eternal God, open my lips that my mouth may declare your glory. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu v'Elohei avotenu v'imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, v'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Leah, v'Elohei Rachel, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, v'Koneh Hakol, v'Zocher Chasdei Avot v'Imahot, u'Mevi Geula livnei v'nehem, L'ma'an Shemo be'ahava, Melech Ozer u'Moshia u'Magen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham ve'Ezrat Sarah. In the middle of page 94, God of all generations, of Abraham and Isaac and Jacob, of Sarah, Rebekah, Leah, and Rachel, be praised. Your wondrous creative power fills heaven and earth. God of life and death, be praised. Through us, send help to the falling, healing to the sick, freedom to the captive. Confirm your faithfulness to those who sleep in the dust. Awesome and holy God, be praised. With acts of love and truth, we hallow your name. As it is said, y'all be holy, for I, your eternal God, am holy.
God of times and seasons, be praised. Enable us through Sabbath rest to explore and learn and impart the meanings of your Torah. Make our hearts ready to serve you this day and all days.
You may be seated. I guess I should be saying all y'all, right? Because it's the plural. Sometimes it's all y'all, sometimes it's just y'all. But if I say y'all, sometimes that's just one person, right? It's all y'all, isn't it? Depends on if you're from Texas or not. We're like a mixed crowd here. All y'all, but that's what it says in Hebrew. It says all y'all in Hebrew. I'm just saying. God, who answers prayer, be praised. May we, your people Israel, be worthy in our deeds and our prayer. Wherever we live, wherever we seek you, in this land, in Zion restored, in all lands, you are our God.
Source of life and its wonders, be praised. You are the miracle within all we behold.
You are goodness, you are compassion. We give thanks to you forever. Read with me, please, below the Hebrew. God of peace, of justice, and in love, be praised. Inspire us to banish forever hatred, war, and bloodshed. Help us to establish forever one human family united in peace. God of peace, bless us with peace.
Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim L'olam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim L'olam. Ki ata hu melech adom l'chol hashalom. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim L'olam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim L'olam. V'tov b'necha levarich et Amcha Yisrael. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim L'olam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim L'olam. Tasim L'olam. Tasim.
Of prayers these days. I don't know what you came here to pray for, but I hope that when all of our prayers join together, your prayers will be answered, as will all of ours. We pray silently. Yihiu leratzon.
May the words of my mouth
Imre fi v'hegyon libi.
and the meditations of my heart
Lefanecha.
be acceptable to you.
Lefanecha.
Be acceptable to you.
Adonai Tzuri.
God, my rock,
Tzuri v'goali.
my rock and my redeemer.
Adonai Tzuri.
God, my rock
Vegoali.
and Redeemer.
Amen. So I don't want to forget, we turn to page 162. We say a prayer for the new month. Yehi ratzon milfanecha Adonai Eloheinu ve'Elohei avotenu v'imotenu, our God and God of our ancestors. May the new month bring us renewed good and blessing. May we have long life, peace, prosperity, and health, a life full of blessing, a life exalted by love of Torah and reverence for the divine, a life in which the longings of our hearts are fulfilled for good. Wondrous God, in ancient days you led our people from bondage to freedom. Redeem us now out of our exile from one another, making all Israel one united people. Rosh Chodesh Tammuz, b'yamei Chamishi v'Shishi. The new month, this is your part, the new month of Tammuz will begin on Thursday and Friday. What day of the week will Thursday be? Thursday. We read together, God of holiness, let the new month bring for us and for the whole house of Israel life and peace, happiness and joy, deliverance and comfort. And let us say, Amen. And let me say, I'm sorry, I forgot to give you that page if you're watching online. That was me, my fault. Sorry about that. We continue with, well, you know what? Let's do the dedication right after this, because there's something I want to say first. I don't know how many of you are still at the congregation where you grew up. Anybody? Still at the congregation where you grew up? Yay. And can I introduce you to our oldest congregant? And she is still at the congregation where she grew up. How many of you have moved around to different places? So the Torah portion this week talks about moving around to different places. How many of you have felt very comfortable in at least one house of worship? How many of you, he said maybe. Somebody gave me one of these. That's good. Maybe one, maybe two, at least one. So when I was growing up, I would go to the synagogue of my mom's parents, grandparents, my grandparents, my great-grandparents, my mom's side. And we would go there. And that became kind of the synagogue for the family. That's how I thought of it. When we moved into a house, up until then I moved a lot when I was young. And when I moved into a house when I was in 3rd grade, in 4th grade, we joined a synagogue. And before we joined the synagogue, my parents got to do what we affectionately called shul shopping, because where we grew up, temple, synagogue, shul, all the words were interchangeable. And so they went shul shopping. We didn't. They went shul shopping because there were lots of synagogues, Reform, Conservative, Orthodox, lots, like churches here. There were synagogues there just about. And they chose one because they really liked the rabbi and how warm and friendly the people were. And he was very, very nice. And he also explain things as we were going along during the service, which is part of why I love that. I liked knowing what was going on, because my great-grandparents' shul, Bethel of Flatbush, which was conservadox, they did let men and women sit together, but there was almost nothing else that wasn't orthodox about it. And they affiliated with the conservative movement, but the rabbi was orthodox and things, but they didn't explain anything. Their services were like, amen, amen, you know. And when I started to learn Hebrew, if I could follow along that fast, I felt really good, but I couldn't have done that fast when I was learning. But I still felt home there. I loved the melodies. I loved sitting next to my family. And then we joined a synagogue. We joined a temple, Beth Shalom, Sholom, Beth Shalom, in New City, New York. And I loved it there. It became home until that rabbi said something stupid about you can't, you know, smart kids can do this, but I wasn't allowed to learn how to chant. And then we joined a different one, and each one of them was home for a different reason. I was thinking about that especially today for two reasons. One is the Torah portion that we're going to talk about tomorrow is about scouting out new territory. And so my parents, when they did their shul shopping, they got to scout out new territory, a place where we could go. In the Torah portion, that's not how it happens. The Torah portion has scouts going into the promised land and seeing if it was a good place to live. It did not turn out well for us that we sent people to go scout out the land that God already told us was ours. It did not go well for us. But that's a story for tomorrow. That's my commercial. I hope you come, and you could come on Zoom. It's easy. Wherever you're sitting, you can listen in. But it's one of the most embarrassing moments of our history. But that's not how we are. We sometimes get to scout out areas, like when Jennifer called me that day and said they're in Japan and they might be coming here, and it turned out we had lots in common, and that was a good thing. When she was scouting out, that was a good thing. But something else that happened today made me think about what it means to scout out a place and what it means to find a place that is a home base. Because we are dedicating the Shirley and Lionel Eltis Rabbinic office suite renovation. I don't remember, something like that, right? And I can't imagine B'nai Zion without Shirley and Lionel Eltis. I can't imagine. And they've already been gone for too many years. And it's years. It kind of shocks me when we look at the stone and we look at the yort sites. And by the way, in case you forgot, they died just within a few days of each other, so their yort sites will always be together. But I can't imagine them not being here. I know Tyler can't imagine them not being there, that everywhere they went, people couldn't imagine them not being there. But today, Brian said this was not his synagogue growing up. By the time they moved here, he already had kids. They had already lived somewhere else. They didn't grow up here. And that blew my mind. I wasn't even thinking about that, and that's embarrassing to admit. I've been here almost 30 years already, and it was a strange thing to imagine a world where they didn't get to grow up at this congregation, because this congregation, Eltis, is part of the fabric of the congregation. So when I think about where you wind up, what your home base is, where you feel at home, they still love this congregation because it was their parents' congregation, because it was a congregation that welcomed them anyway, and they still chose to do wonderful things for us here. Just like I still feel wonderful things about the congregation where my grandparents were. I can't imagine their names not being on the plaque or that congregation not saying Kaddish for them. Even though no one has lived there for a very long time, they were an important part of the fabric of that congregation. That's part of what I feel like at B'nai Zion a lot, is that you become part of this Children of Zion family, and you become part of the fabric. And even if you're not here, you're still part of the fabric. If you move away, you still get to be part of the fabric. And you still, you can still do wonderful things for us here. That wasn't the point of it, but that's what they've chosen to do. Wonderful things here because this was a place that meant a lot to them. So I am glad that those of you who are here have found that this is a place that you feel at home your whole life, or part of your life, or keep coming back. And I know that I am grateful to be part of this world. That's what I wanted to tell you. Yeah, the Eltises, we miss them very much. I tried to say a few times when their voices echo in my ears all the time. The things that they do for us. Shirley would have gotten up and done the Vahafta for us if nobody else was volunteering, even though I was trying to get somebody younger, but that was okay. She was younger. She could have done this, because no matter how old she was always like the youngest one here. She would have done this. So I appreciate that very much. So, in appreciation, Madam President, would you come up for a second and help me? Max, follow me. I'm going to come down for a second. In appreciation, in memory and in honor of Shirley and Lionel, the sisterhood would like to present you with a challah, because usually when you dedicate a new space, it includes bread, breaking bread. We're not going to be able to do that exactly. And these are left over from when we dedicated the sanctuary, the new sanctuary. These are stones from Jerusalem, because that's one of the places where we scouted, that we knew we could, that was our home, still our home. But on the back it says B'nai Zion, because hopefully Jerusalem's in your heart, B'nai Zion is in your heart, you are in our hearts, and we appreciate you very much. Thank you for representing your parents with us, and enjoy your challah too. Would you like to come up and tell us what you need to tell us? And so that's our, well, actually I have while you're coming up, I did have other words to say. I have this wonderful quote while you're coming up. I found this beautiful quote. How do you dedicate a room where you're not in? I found this beautiful quote. It says, "Unless the Eternal One builds the house, its builders labor in vain. Creator of the universe, by whose goodness the world is renewed day by day, you have implanted in us a spark of your creative will. You've made us your partners in building of the world. Thank you for helping us build our home and our sanctuary and our congregation." Thank you.
Shabbat Shalom. Thank you to everyone who donated to the Shirley and Lionel Rabbinic Suite Office Renovation Fund. Mazel tov to everyone with birthdays or anniversaries this month. And a special thank you for being with us tonight. We will not have a Zoom on Shabbat this evening. We will have Zoom Torah study tomorrow at 9:45 and services at 11. Rabbi Jana's prayer book class will be focusing on a different prayer each week. You can learn the prayer better, learn about what it means and why it is part of the service. This class meets at 5:30 on Wednesdays on Zoom. She will also be teaching biblical Hebrew at 5:30 on Thursdays on Zoom. Next Saturday, Rabbi Jana's Kiddush Shabbat meets in person and on Zoom from 9 to 9:30. That'll be followed at 9:45 by Torah study and 11 o'clock service, which will be held in person as well as on Zoom next week. Next Sunday on June 13th, 6:13. So Rabbi Jana will have the fourth annual 613 and 6/13 at 6:13. That is time, colon.
It's supposed to be 6:13 on 6:13 at 6:13.
That's what I'm trying to tell you.
Right. It's confusing, but it's
Which
cool.
is June
cool.
13th at 6:13 p.m. for the 613 commandments. This year we are on Zoom. Expect not only to visit, but to have some fun. Gee, just introducing it was fun.
That's right.
The best way to find out details about upcoming events is in your email, one call, or online at the B'nai Zion website. Donations were made to the B'nai Zion Sisterhood Flower Fund in loving memory of Shirley and Lionel Eltis, by Cindy and Brian Eltis, and Sandra and Mel Weiss, and in loving memory of Mary Goulder, my mother, by me.
Thank you. It's just fun. And there's another announcement that I have to tell you that happened after we wrote these, and that is, I don't know if you've heard that in Shreveport we're praying for the city. We're praying to end the violence. I was part of a prayer service 2 weeks ago, but the mayor asked me to be part of the service on Sunday at Independence Stadium at 3 p.m. I will be one of the people offering a prayer. Listen carefully about whether your neighborhood is going to have one tomorrow, because it may rain, and the mayor was making a decision. I have no idea if that's been made or not. But Independence Stadium will happen, rain or shine. They have space indoors if it can't be outdoors, 3 p.m. on Sunday. You are welcome to join me or know that I will be there. I don't always remember to tell you about the things that I do in the community like that, but prayers are a good thing, and being included is a good thing in those prayers. I now invite everyone to please turn to the inside back cover of our prayer book as our hearts and our prayers turn to those who are ill or recuperating. If you have names for whom you would like us to be saying prayers, I invite you to please call them out. This has been a week of lots of deep cuts in my family, so I'm hoping for healing for those things. It's hard to turn the page when your thumb's not working, but it wasn't just me who got cut this week. So, but there are lots of other people for whom we're praying. So, for those we've named out loud and for those we hold in our hearts, we pray together. Oh God, in our hearts we name those who are facing illness and pain. We join our prayers with the prayers of all who love them. Give them renewed comfort and courage. Strengthen in them the healing powers you have placed within us all. Guide the hands and hearts of those who are entrusted with their care. May the knowledge of your love and ours give added hope to them and to their dear ones. May they find even greater strength because our prayers are linked to theirs. Baruch atah Adonai, Rofeh Cholim. We praise you, eternal God, the source of healing and health. And now I want to invite everyone with birthdays and or anniversaries in June to please come up. Come on, I have my list. Ellen, you want to represent? Come on. And when you come up, please take a mug off the seat because you're coming up. Don't you have an anniversary? We're just blessing you, nothing scary. It's good. And you can take a mug or two. If it's an anniversary, you each get a mug. These are really lovely mugs. They have like kind of a rubbery bottom so that they don't fall, they don't squiggle. So we bless you. You can get closer if you want, Mitch. That's good. God of days and years, author of life, our times are in your hand. We thank you for the blessing of life and all that enriches our lives. We gather today in special thankfulness to share in the happiness of our friends. Be with them always as the joy of their lives. May they be blessed with health and happiness and with the strength to overcome sickness and sorrow. May we have the joy of coming together for many more years, united by mutual reverence and love. Then will our lives be filled with abundance of blessing. And we say together, Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, שהחיינו וקיימנו והגיענו לזמן הזה. Praised are you, Adonai, our God, ruler of the universe, because you gave us life, and you kept us alive, and you brought us to this very special moment. Now, anybody who's comfortable out of this group walking up and down stairs, would you come and open up the ark for me, please? I know that leaves some of you out. Yeah, come on, that's okay. And when the ark is open, please rise and turn to page 148 for the Aleinu. Yeah, that's the way it works. Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol, latet gedula liotzer breshit, shelo asanu kigoye haratzot, v'lo samanu k'mishpachot ha'adama, shelo sam chelkenu kahem, v'gor aleinu k'chol hamonam, v'anachnu koreim u'mishtachavim u'modim, lifnei melech malachei hamlachim hakadosh baruch hu. And on the facing page we sing, V'nemar v'haya Adonai l'melech al kol haaretz bayom hahu yeh Adonai echad u'shemo echad. When the ark is closed. You may be seated. I like getting to sing with you again. This was fun. That was fun. Mazel tov, everybody. Mazel tov, mazel tov, mazel tov. Mazel tov. Hugs to hubby. How many? Oh my goodness. That's Kenahara, we say. Poo, poo, poo. Anybody else say that? Does anybody here grow up saying Kenahara, poo, poo, poo? What? I say Kenahara and poo, poo, poo. You say just poo, poo, poo? Do you do it like this? No? Yeah. Yes, you do. It means, so if you're interested about the Aleinu, this past Wednesday, that's the prayer that we chose to be examining. We decided to not worry about our textbook all summer, the prayer book class, and we're taking a prayer each week, and we decided to do the Aleinu. And that's posted on the prayer book page now, so if you want to see the video from that, you're welcome to watch that and see more about it. We're having fun. Page 151. Our thoughts turn to those who have departed this earth, our own loved ones, those whom our friends and neighbors have lost, the martyrs of our people, and those of every race and nation whose lives have been a blessing to humanity. As we remember them, let us meditate on the meaning of love and loss, of life and death. We will continue on page 153. In nature's ebb and flow, your eternal law abides. As you are our support in the struggles of life, so also are you our hope in death. In your care, O God, are the souls of all the living and the spirits of all flesh. Your power gives us strength. Your love comforts us. O life of our life, soul of our soul, cause your light to shine into our hearts. Fill us with trust in you and turn us again to the tasks of life. And may the memory of our loved ones inspire us to continue their work for the coming of your sovereign rule. However brief may be our time on earth, O God, you endow our fleeting days with abiding worth. We now recall the loved ones whom death has recently taken from us. We remember those who died during the past 30 days. Remember Henry Brenner and Robert Bronig, Ron Riley, and Fred Phillips. We remember congregants' parents who died within the past year. We remember Abry Can Jr., Tommy Crowder, Sophie Lipo, Robert Talbert, Joseph Paris, Artis Robison, and George Rothkopf. We remember those who died at this season in years past. We take them into our hearts with our own. Those for whom we're observing Yortzeit this week include Lucy Brainis, Shirley Murav Eltis, Lionel Eltis, I.H. Ginsberg, Mary Joseph Goulder, Casper Grunis, H. Lewis Helperin, Zena Hyman, Abe J. Katz, Jacob Katzenstein, Philip Ben Lieber, Marseille Manasseh, Louis A. Moss, Delbert Plant Jr., A. M. Rosen, Fanny Katz Rosenfield, Milton I. Rosenzweig, Ernest Arnost Safir, Mamie Selber, and Archie Simon. In this moment of memory, our griefs and sympathies are mingled. Loving God, we rise as together we praise your name. There are many others we're holding in our hearts too. The world is filled with pain sometimes, but we have the Kaddish on page 154. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, be'alma divra chiruteh v'yamlich malchuteh, b'chayechon u'v'yomechon u'v'chayei dechol Beit Yisrael, ba'agala u'vizman kariv v'imru amen. Yehei shemei Rabbah mevarach le'alam u'lalmei almaya, yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, v'yithadar v'yitaleh v'yithalal shemei dekudsha richu, le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, da'amiran be'alma v'imru amen. Yehei shalama rabba min shemaya, v'chaim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael, v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael, v'imru amen. May the source of peace send peace to all who mourn and comfort to all who are bereaved. Amen. Please be seated. Do you feel like an Ein Kelohenu mood tonight? We are always in an Ein Kelohenu mood. Turn to page 159, but you don't need these books. Let's Ein Kelohenu like we don't need the books.
Ein Keloheinu, Ein Kadonenu, Ein Kemalkeinu, Ein Kemoshienu, Micheloheinu, Michadonenu, Michemalkeinu, Michemoshienu. Nodel Eloheinu, Nodel Adonenu, Nodel Malkeinu, Nodel Moshienu, Baruch Eloheinu, Baruch Adonenu, Baruch Malkeinu, Baruch Moshienu. Atahu Eloheinu, Atahu Adonenu, Atahu Malkeinu, Atahu Moshienu.
Should have taken a bigger breath before I got to the end of that song. I ran out of air. Please rise for the closing benediction. I'm coming over here, Max. Did you find me? Ha! He's good. It is a blessing for us to be here together. I know that this house, with these people in it, in this configuration, it's not that it happens a lot, except that in some sense, you're always here with us. Sitting next to you are the people who have been here before us, and we feel it, and we feel you all the time. I feel you. Help me bless everybody. Yivarechecha Adonai v'yishmerecha. May God bless you. May God protect you. Yair Adonai panav elecha v'chuneka. May the light of God's face shine upon you, be gracious to you. Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yasem lecha shalom. May God's face look up to you, because God has so much that God looks up to you about. Or you heard the new one that I read is that it's like God is like getting on God's knee and looking up to you like you're a toddler. And God's face looks up to you like a loving parent. And may God grant you peace. Love you. Shabbat Shalom. Na 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 na. Na 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 na. No, 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 no. And please look through the office and see how beautiful it looks before you go. That's how we dedicate. Look through. And if not today, some other time.